CFL betting blueprint. It is Labor Day weekend, and that means we have some games on Monday. Two games, doubleheader going on, and a game on Sunday. Just three games for this week here, Bobby. And some interesting numbers here. I would say limited line movement so far. Maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong on that, but we haven't really seen the rapid line movement we're used to seeing so far this season. Obviously, we're recording this today and live on X on a Wednesday. And usually by now we would have seen some adjustments and some moves made, but so far nothing too crazy. But I think a lot of that has to do with probably the majority of the games being on Monday.
Yeah, and practices just started up yesterday and today. So yesterday was like a day zero for most of these teams, so they don't even really log reports. So yeah, we're kind of like a day behind on this Labor Day weekend.
And you know, we're just waiting on information, waiting to hear what we have. But hey, you and I were happy about last weekend, man. Those Calgary Stamps. The first half a little bit sketchy, but I had that. I don't know what it is. I think lately the big plays, it's better for me not to be home watching, because when I'm home watching them, it's not going great. But the smaller plays, if I'm home watching, those go great. So I love it when I'm out doing something, sort of watching the game, sort of not, and then I just get like a message from you being like, hey, not looking too bad. And I know when you say not looking too bad, it's looking fantastic. So I'm always happy about that. So it was a good weekend for me, and I know it was a good weekend for yourself as well. So let's try and keep things going in the CFL. And you know what? Week 13, a lot more time to keep things going. You're seeing college football podcasts on your feed. You're seeing NFL podcasts on your feed. We are still here with the CFL bets. So looking at this week and looking at week 13, Bobby, as mentioned, we're going to have two games on Monday. But when you look at this week, do you agree? Like, not really much movement so far. Bombers, Roughriders, though. What are your thoughts on that number we're seeing and that matchup overall? I mean, the Roughriders were everybody's favorite team going into last week.
And that's what usually happens when they're everybody's favorite team. They usually lay an egg. It wasn't a complete egg for them this time. They had a good second quarter, but let's look at Winnipeg here. Winnipeg, everybody was ready to jump off last season. We weren't. I'm kind of more ready to jump off this team right now, though. They snuck by like James Morgan. I'm trying to do these advanced tricks that only GRP could probably pull off, trying to bet on the Alouettes, trying to find some value every week with these third and fourth string quarterbacks. Didn't work out again. But Winnipeg made it they snuck by that. They made it a lot closer than it needs to be against Ottawa. So they haven't really been tested in the last couple of weeks. And then, like you said, Saskatchewan had their big letdown, their typical letdown game when they're top of these power standings. But even after the second quarter there, it seemed like when you got to halftime, Saskatchewan seemed to have all the momentum. And I wasn't really feeling too great about that Stamps bet. But they stunk it up in the second half, couldn't stop the run. And it hasn't been too common for them, but it is something to worry about when you're going up against the Bombers and Oliveira. So like this number has kind of just been bouncing between 5.5, 6 for the first few days there. I was hoping it would go to 7, but honestly, I don't think it will, just because like the books have historically like supported the Bombers more than anybody else. So Saskatchewan had their letdown last week. I still think they should be favored. I don't think they should be favored by this much, like maybe 3.5. So I gave out the Bombers yesterday when it was 6. I still like it 5.5 right now. I don't think you're going to see a 7 just because there is some resistance, what little resistance there is in CFL lines from the books. So hoping for a close game, hoping it comes down to maybe a field goal kick, and maybe for once the kicker could be relevant, despite what the media tells you. Brett Lawler hasn't been he's actually almost been beneficial for this Riders team, missing these field goals and pinning the opponents deep when they run it out of the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, look, Bobby, I don't even want to get going on the coaches. I think that I always have been boasting about how, hey, I don't do that many money line parlays, but when I do them, they win. And then the BC Lions just screw me completely. I mean, hey, if you're going to give up that many points, I guess I can't really be upset about a game. But at the end of the day, third yard line, 3 yard line, 6 yard line, and they're kicking field goals on both of those. I mean, that just drives you absolutely crazy. I haven't said this in a while because I truly do believe, and I saw, whenever you're playing this, usually when you tag me on X and you put it out ahead of our schedule there, you sprinkle the money line, right? It's the old Yanni the Greek, Kelly in Vegas. You got to sprinkle on that. But this to me has one of those ones where it's like, I don't think that Sask should be this big of favorites, but I also think they're going to win the game. You know what I mean? Like, to me, if I'm betting Winnipeg, and I have not done it yet, it's one of those ones where I'm just like, I understand what you mentioned about like, this isn't the Winnipeg of a few years ago, but it's still not the Winnipeg that deserves to be getting this many points. Is kind of how I feel. You know what I mean? Like, I almost feel like people for years have been looking for an excuse to bet against Winnipeg and say poor things about them, and even for the small community of us CFL bettors. But I also feel like it's not like we're getting like 3.5 points here, like if it was 3.5 or something like that, I'd be like, okay, we got the home field advantage off a loss. You mentioned it, the flat spot for them. And they lost that one, and they had a team coming off a bye. That was kind of the angle there for the Stamps. So I do lean towards the Winnipeg side in this one. I'm going to go back towards leaning towards the under, even though Winnipeg has just been an over machine. 26-13 in the last one, that was against Montreal. So I'm not going to credit the fact that I hit an under in that game, or at least talked about it on the show, because Montreal just produced nothing. But I do think Winnipeg is starting to realize the team they have to be. And look, I know I can't really use this saying right now, but you can kind of feel that kind of little nip in the air, that kind of feeling of the seasons changing from summer to fall. And that's usually when Winnipeg starts to play their best football, when it gets a little bit cooler, when the standings start to matter. And, they're getting 5.5 points. So we'll see if this number moves anymore. I'll probably be looking at them. But it's like you said when I brought it up. Saskatchewan is on everyone's favorite power standings. They're still great. A lot of people liked them last week. I will say one of the main reasons I liked the Stamps was because of the fact that they were coming off a bye week. There's only certain teams that's applicable for every now and then, and I think that was applicable for them last week. But yeah, plus 5.5, I think I'm interested. I'll probably jump in on that one. We'll see if I end up doing it. Only thing that does worry me is last 2 games for Winnipeg. How focused can they be? Me and you could have caught a few passes against, the Red Blacks and the Alouettes last week. That's the only problem. So we'll see what ends up happening with that one. Toronto Hamilton is the exact same number here. Actually, there's a good mix. I actually see some 5.5s. I see a 6. And I see a 4.5. So that's kind of, we're going to call consensus number 5.5 here with Hamilton. Toronto put up a shit ton of points. I was kind of, saying that was my complaining game of the week, not hitting that money line parlay here. And now you have Hamilton at home, and they're off a bye week. So I'm going to throw it to you with this, Bob, because I'm curious your opinion here. We backed Calgary off a bye, but they're a great team. I don't know how you classify Hamilton. They're coming off a bye. How do you think that they deserve to be minus 5.5 favorites? Or do you think they deserve?
They're definitely the better team here, and yeah, no, I think they should be. They're definitely the better team. Off a bye helps. Home field maybe helps a little bit more in the Labor Day Classic here. Not that Hamilton does have a really strong home field over the last few years, but it is worth something. I think on paper this is probably going to be the most, not just entertaining, but the best game of the week. Just like I mentioned the other day, I posted that maybe there should be an IQ test for coaches, but then you'd lose 7 of the 9 coaches. They'd have to be fired from their positions, right? These would be the only 2 coaches left that would keep their jobs. These guys seem to know what they're doing on most occasions. So it's nice to kind of know that you can handicap a game and not have something wild and ridiculous happen, a boneheaded decision, turn the tide completely, right? So, I think Hamilton deserves to be favored here. They've got a few D-backs that might be coming back, Stavros Katsantonis, Panabaker. I think there was another one might be coming back too. So they are getting healthier. It's not a great secondary, but anything helps when you're Hamilton. So Then you got Toronto, which basically went shot for shot with BC, and then BC basically gave up. Started kicking field goals, giving short fields to Nick Arbuckle when he's throwing for 400 yards on him. So I don't really know how Toronto's doing this. They have a beat up O line. Their team was picked apart. They've got DeMonte Coxey on the 6th game, but they just picked up Mackay Polk back from the NFL. So he would be there to help as well. Not that Arbuckle seems to need much help. He's having the best season of his career. The only season he's actually hasn't lost a job probably. So
Yeah.
as good as he's been though, I don't think Toronto's a good team yet. I think Hamilton should be favored. I'm surprised this line is moving lower. Like there's 4.5s there. If it goes any lower, it's not going to go to 3 or 3.5. But I'd probably lean Hamilton. I think this line should be just under a touchdown in this dead zone. I think this game and the Calgary Edmonton game are kind of in that range where less than a touchdown, but more than a field goal. That's where the line should be.
Let me ask you this. I know we try not to create too much hype, but I think if there was a week to do it, like you did bring it up a little bit, does it mean anything more, the fact that they're coming off a bye with the Labor Day Classic? I think that if there ever was to be a weekend, maybe that it matters. I think the player, like any American player coming here, is pretty much told, hey, this weekend really matters. This is a weekend. Remember in college football when there was a weekend you needed to win? I feel like this is a weekend that CFL teams want to win.
Yeah, and I think Hamilton right now is far and away the class of the East, only because they haven't lost their quarterback.
Yeah.
So
I gotta love this here from Kevin. Bobby with the subtle.
It's hard to explain with that BC defense.
No,
here we go. Yeah, the Arbuckle shade. I thought I'd sneak through a week without it, but yeah, it's hard not to bash the guy if you're me, I guess.
He also says, what's the percentage here that Collaros finishes the game? Damn, Kevin. Well, based on where we're going right now in the CFL, most quarterbacks might not finish the season. That's why we should all be giving credit to Arbuckle, because he's probably going to lose his job eventually, and he's playing pretty well. Let's think about it. How many points are the Argos giving up every game? How many points? Let me ask you this. How many points do you think Arbuckle has to score in an average game right now for his team to win?
Oh, they need to get at least 30, points. And he's 35. He's coming close. They're losing close games.
Yeah. I think don't want to always be the guy that jumps on the off a bye angle, but I do think it matters in this one here. I think that you see the number of points Toronto put up last week, and here's the question too. You're a BC guy. I know you've been out East Coast with me here lately, but is BC's defense that good? Has it been good over the past little while? Or did Toronto put up Toronto did torch them, but again, this does feel like the ultimate contrarian. This kind of just feels like you watch week 1 of the NFL and you want to fade whatever happened in week 1 and week 2, and going into the Labor Day Classic, I want to fade Toronto coming in off putting up 1 million points.
Yeah, and what was Toronto's last few games leading up to that was a couple against Ottawa and Edmonton, right? So Edmonton's a little better, but they haven't really been tested. Hamilton will be the toughest team they've faced in the last month and a half, right? So BC, that's every time BC loses a game, it's usually because of their defense. It's not their offense isn't the problem. It's even when they have the lead, they're kind of collapsing like they did against Hamilton a few weeks ago as well. So I think Toronto might be rated better than they are right now.
All right. So looking at Calgary, obviously we both made money on them so far. 6-4 ATS now though, Bobby, after it was a really good ATS run for them. As a favorite, they are now 0-3. As a dog, 6-1. Over under 4-6. And at home, ATS at home 3-3. Edmonton right now 3-2, both ATS away and at home. This one's kind of interesting to me. 3-7 over under. And I know you don't want me to ask you, but I'm just bringing it up here, going through some of the lists. But Edmonton, they're on a 5-game winning streak against the spread. What does that have in common? Well, we all know the answer. We've talked about it. Everybody besides the coaching staff knew who should have been the quarterback for that team. So here's the question: It's going to be a doubleheader on a Monday, the last game of the week here. Do we want ourselves on the dog that's won 5 straight ATS? And correct me if I'm wrong here. I think 1 or 2 of those they might have been actually favorited.
Yeah, like so Edmonton's been on this they've been on a 3 games straight up win streak here. But you look back and see who it was against. It was against MBT. It was against Nick Arbuckle and and Dustin Crum. So I was hoping to kind of pump the brakes on this Elks team here. It was fun riding Fajardo for these last few weeks, but like anything more than 7 here is I think is too much. So like, although it's tough to criticize anything Calgary's done this season, best defense in the league, one of the best quarterbacks, working like he's still making it work with half of their receiving core out, right? But they've been great as dogs, like you said. They've been covering when they're getting points, but like the last 3 times I faded them, and that was with the Alouettes, with the Bombers, and with Ottawa in a kind of gross game. When what was his face, Walker Calgary Stampeder was quarterbacks, but they haven't been able to kind of cover these big numbers. Those were all big numbers they were laying, and weren't able to get it done. So like I'm on the Elks. It was as high as 9 this morning. Anything over 7.5, and I think there's still plenty of 7.5s out there. That's who I'm going to be on, and of course like a little bit of money line sprinkle at plus 300, which isn't too bad.
Yeah, I mean, look, some people could say that. Do you worry about just that big win Calgary's coming off of, and now they're going to be at home, and they're going to have some momentum and such. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is what we continue to say here, Bobby, and this is what I'm going to talk about here on the show, is that there's a big difference between winning the game, covering a point spread, right? And we appreciate all of you guys that have been watching over the course of the season, all of you guys liking the video. And if you haven't already, do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, follow us on X, because we've been saying this stuff all year on the show. I mean, if you read my write-up on Calgary last week, you'd think I'm the biggest Calgary fan in the world, but it's situationally. This is why we both enjoy betting the CFLs. Every week presents something different. Doesn't mean this week we just all of a sudden don't like the Stampeders as a team. We don't like them as 7.5-point favorites. Because I know some people might play a video of us talking last week, Bobby, and then play a video of us talking this week about Calgary. And I get the same stuff during the hockey season with my write-ups. I'll be on the Blue Jackets plus 125 on a Wednesday, and on Friday I'm fading the shit out of them, when they're playing a good team or something. And that's just how it goes. But at the end of the day here with Edmonton, what I find funny is that there was steam coming in on them. And I don't know who it was and what it was earlier in the year when it was Ford. And then somehow we've been getting like the best numbers ever on them with Fajardo. Am I wrong on that? Like, I feel like we got game day steam on the Elks when they were losing. And there really hasn't been much steam coming in on them on game day when they've been winning all these games.
Yeah, that steam was coming in on Edmonton. It would even come in on them when they had Cornelius as a quarterback. Yeah. So, like, maybe they were trying to just, I don't know. Eventually, the numbers are too big, but that doesn't really matter when Trey Ford is your starting quarterback. So, you're right though. Like, I haven't seen anything like this line's moved against him. I think this line might have opened under 7. So, to see it move to at least 9 this morning and settle around this 8, 7.5, 8 right now. Like, of all the times there should be support for the Elks, it's now, and I guess people just don't believe in Cody Fajardo the way that we do.
Yeah, I think that as well. I wanted to bring something up because I thought this was. Hold on, let me see if I can get this here, because I think there's only 3 games this week, and let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, so I think this is going to be actually a pretty good week to not just back the Elks, but to take Cody Fajardo on his passing yards. Because when you look at the Stamps, like they like to control the clock and such, but unless they have a huge lead, they haven't really been doing that as much lately. But we all know what's happening here. When you get a 7.5 point spread, like put it this way, I've only released, I think, 2 official player props this year at Wager Talk, maybe 1 in the CFL. And I know 1,000% one of them was Trey Ford over on passing yards when the team itself was like plus 10.5 point favorites or 7.5. When a team is plus 7.5, Bobby, how many times is this team going to run the ball? At the end of the day, I'm not saying it's going to be an outright breeze, and you and I aren't saying it's going to be a wire-to-wire close game, but typically when you have a 7.5, you're not going into halftime with the lead. It's about what you do in the second half. So I feel like it could be a good time for that. And I'll tell you what, when you look at the other game earlier in the week, we've talked about them being pretty healthy, but do you think that we could look at Trevor Harris's under? I think Winnipeg's been having long possessions lately. And I'm not trying to throw props at you, but I just think that when you look at this team right now, they're not that exciting. They just get the job done. And I feel like if Winnipeg can stay on the field for a while, Saskatchewan wants to run the ball. And even though my guy Brett Lowther keeps missing, they keep giving him field goals from like 55 yards away. I might look at some of those numbers. So we'll see. I thought I saw them earlier popped out, but I actually don't see them widely available. So I'll probably post some stuff later in the week. It's a big week in the CFL, obviously, and 2 games on Monday are going to be exciting for us to watch. But Fajardo passing yards could be kind of correlated here with this plus 7.5, I think, because if they cover that against the Stamps, I think it's going to have to do some damage in the air.
Yeah, I think I like that Harris one a little better, but mainly just because the eyeball test, like he clearly, well, not clearly, they said he didn't get hurt. It looked like he got hurt on took a big hit. Should have got into concussion protocol, if you ask me, but he just wasn't the same after that, right? So you kind of wonder how is he going to be? Is he even going to make it through this whole game, right? You've seen this happen a few times where CFL coaches put out injured quarterbacks because they're just trying to win every single game rather than thinking long term. So the Harris one is definitely interesting, mainly just because you don't know how effective he's going to be. He kind of just turned into a pumpkin in the second half last week in Calgary.
All right, we got a question here from Kevin. This one might Kevin, you might get Bobby worked up here with this one. We've done a show about this, and he's been tweeting about this all year. But do you have any MOP leans? Is it too late for you to give him your grocery list of MOP bets you've made, Bobby, or do you have any comment on this?
Well, like earlier in the year, I think we were both on VA. He's now the favorite. He was 20-1. A lot of people were on him 20-1 early on in the year. I still like Nathan Rourke at 11, just because he's got 3 bye weeks coming up. He's got 2 games against the Red Blacks and then a bye week before they finish out the season. He's still putting up great numbers. He's got the gross passing yards that the voters love to give their vote to. So. Arbuckle, he's the passing leader. And the only reason that Bo Levi Mitchell almost got the MOP last season was because he threw a lot of passing yards. Arbuckle's the passing leader, but he's like, they're so unprepared for it. He's only on FanDuel. He wasn't on Play Now, Sports Interaction, 365, any of the other sites. FanDuel's got him 19-1. I don't know, maybe a hedge. I don't think anybody is going to win MOP out of the East. I think it's either going to be VA or Rourke. Harris, I don't think there's any value there. I don't think there's anything else. Alexander and Brown have kind of been too injured to be eligible for this award. We learned that was a criteria a few years ago when Nathan Rourke tore up the league for only like 9 weeks. So I think the only number I like right now is Nathan Rourke, 11-1. Just because he has a few cupcake games coming up, and he should be finishing the season down at I don't know, 5 or 6 when all's said and done. But he's still going to have to go through VA.
Yep.
And maybe you can argue statistically Rourke has the better stats, but I think the voters are going to vote on a story. The voters in the West don't definitely watch more CFL football than the ones in the East. So they're kind of going to be more predictable with their vote. Whereas the East, I couldn't even tell you who votes for the Toronto guys. They're just going to vote Arbuckle because that's maybe first name in alphabetical order, but he also has a lot of passing yards too.
All right, one last question for you. Do you know currently at FanDuel what the odds are for the Bombers to win the Grey Cup, being it at home as well this year? 4 of the last 5 appearances in the Grey Cup. You know what their odds are?
I think it's over 10 now, right?
14-1. 14-1 for this team to get back to the game and give you a hedge opportunity of plus 1,400 here. That just itself makes me want to take them plus 5.5 this weekend. Like, seeing that itself just makes me realize how stupid of a number that is. Like, you know why I brought that up? Because I was going to tell you, Montreal could make some moves. They've been injured all year. They're 5-1. Like, they don't deserve to be 5-1. I would actually prefer Montreal to be 14-1. Maybe that's a bit crazy to say that, but look at their injury list. Like, sometimes you just all of a sudden get healthy and the team gets better. But sometimes you're injured all year long and you just don't end up getting it together at the end of the year. And I feel like that could be the case for Montreal. A lot of people in the community of betting CFL are saying, watch out for the Alouettes when they get healthy. How many weeks are they going to have when they are healthy together? It's like people in the NHL when they complain about the LTIR stuff, and I'm one of those people. But a lot of times, if too many people are coming off the LTIR, the team has no chemistry. And I think that might be the case for Montreal. One thing with Winnipeg, they've been a little hurt, but they've also just been inconsistent. But they still have a great team. Like 14-1, man. I gotta bet that.
I think that's good if you think they're going to win the next 2 games against the Riders. Like, I don't see them hosting a home playoff game, right? And if they're not hosting, they're going to be 3-point dogs, 4-point dogs on the road. And then even if they make the Grey Cup, like it's probably going to be only a 1 or 2 point spread there, right? So maybe there is a little bit of value, but I think if you just like mechanically parlay that,
Right.
those Bombers, you're going to get it close to 12, 13 on their own. So
That's a good point.
I guess if you like that number, you think they're going to win this weekend, right? Because they got to win the tiebreaker against the Riders. I'm just looking at this. I could barely look at these standings because they don't really matter. But
no, they don't.
Yeah, like they're in trouble. Like, they got to win both games against the Riders. I think they've already lost the season series to the Stamps. So a lot needs to go their way for them to at least host one game. But yeah, if they're in the Grey Cup, they're going to be favored against anybody out of the East.
Do you know what Hamilton's record is against the Western Conference? And I actually don't know this. This is just me with one final question because I actually don't know. They're second favorites in the league to win. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how good is Hamilton? I kind of want to back them at home this weekend, but how much am I going to care if they do cover the spread against Toronto, right? Probably won't really, It won't mean a lot to me against Calgary, Saskatchewan, some of these teams. Like, I don't know. Like, put it this way: if BC was in Montreal's division, do you think BC is 12-1 right now to win the Grey Cup? Probably not, right? So,
well, they could be, right? Like, there is a potential of a crossover here too, right? So
yeah.
I didn't even think of that, and that does make that Bombers number look a lot better because they'd be going on the road against Montreal and Hamilton if they end up getting that crossover. You'd almost want to get the crossover, I think. Like, do you want to go beat up Hamilton or Montreal, or do you want to go into Saskatchewan and Calgary to make the Grey Cup?
Yeah, and then the Eastern Division gets exposed for the 10,000th time in the last since the league's pretty much existed. Anyway, you got traveling to do. You've been on the move. You're keeping a hot streak alive. I feel like that's been your on-camera personality, different background every time. Today, I'm just no background. I'm just being held captive right now. Just a blank slate right behind me. But 3 games, but 3 important games for the CFL. Make sure you're following Bobby at Mr. Surrey Jack, myself, McInnis Picks. If you're watching on Wager Talk, hit the like button. We appreciate it. And stay tuned for all kinds of content right now. College football, NFL, CFL, NHL coming soon. Lots going on right now at wagertalk.com. See you guys later. Thanks a lot.